The courtroom is filled with tension. It's one of those cases everyone in the legal world is talking about. On one side sits Mr. Donovan, a ruthless lawyer known for his cutthroat tactics. He's no stranger to high-profile cases, and his reputation precedes him. He's tall, sharply dressed, and exudes an air of confidence that makes everyone in the room uncomfortable. He knows how to win, and it's clear that he's already assuming victory. On the opposite side is Katharine Ross, a relatively unknown lawyer. People in the courtroom whisper about her, about how she's not well known for handling high-stakes cases. Her calm demeanor and quiet presence make her stand out for the wrong reasons. She's in her 30s, modestly dressed, and looks almost out of place in this high-stakes environment, but there's something about her that's different. She doesn't seem intimidated by the power in the room. The case they're here for is about more than just money or a simple legal dispute. It's about principles, power, and reputation. Katharine is representing a woman who's been wronged in a way no one could have predicted, and it's up to her to prove it in front of a courtroom full of doubters. The stakes are high, and everyone seems to have written Katharine off before the trial even begins. The audience expects Mr. Donovan to win, without question. But little do they know, the real drama hasn't even started yet. As the judge enters the room, the trial begins. The air is thick with anticipation. The battle lines have been drawn. Mr. Donovan stands tall as he rises to speak. His voice fills the room, smooth and confident, with a hint of sarcasm that immediately sets the tone. He addresses the judge with a smile, making it clear that he's done this countless times before. His reputation for winning precedes him, and he's not afraid to remind everyone of that. "Your Honor," he begins, "we all know how these cases go. The facts are clear, and my client is in the right. The evidence speaks for itself." He pauses for effect, letting the weight of his words sink in. The room grows quiet, all eyes on him. Then he turns to Katharine. He gestures toward her with an exaggerated flourish, his smirk widening. "But of course we have a rookie in the room. Miss Ross here, who's barely made a name for herself. I'm sure she'll try to make her case with her usual charm." His words drip with mockery, and a few people in the courtroom snicker under their breath. Katharine doesn't react. She doesn't even flinch. She simply sits there, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Her eyes stay focused on the lawyer, and her face remains an unreadable mask. Mr. Donovan isn't finished though. He continues, his tone getting more pointed. "I'm sure Miss Ross is a perfectly nice person, but let's be honest, this isn't the kind of case she can handle. It's far beyond her abilities. But I'm sure she'll give it her best shot." He leans back in his chair, making it seem like he's just stated a simple fact, but it's clear he's trying to provoke her. He watches her closely, waiting for any sign of weakness. The room is filled with whispers, some agreeing with him, others murmuring about the apparent mismatch. The judge, who's seen countless courtroom battles, simply watches, his expression neutral. Yet, despite the lawyer's arrogance and the obvious mockery, Katharine doesn't react. She stays calm, like a steady rock in the middle of a storm. People start to wonder, what's going on in her mind? As Mr. Donovan continues his mocking tirade, Katharine remains completely still. Her posture is poised, her eyes fixed ahead, betraying no emotion. It's as though nothing he says has any power over her. People in the courtroom begin to notice her composure. It's almost unnatural, how calm she is. While Donovan's voice fills the room with sarcasm and biting humor, Katharine doesn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Her hands folded neatly on the table, remain steady, her face shows no sign of frustration, no hint of anger, not even a flicker of doubt. She's a picture of quiet confidence, but it's not the kind of confidence that shouts, it's the kind that waits patiently. Even when Donovan makes another jab, this time suggesting she's too inexperienced to handle such a high-profile case, Katharine doesn't flinch. Instead, she takes a deep breath, as if collecting herself for something much bigger. She knows that his words are designed to bait her, to get her to respond, but she's too smart for that. She doesn't let him play that game. The judge, who has seen his fair share of courtroom drama, raises an eyebrow at her silence. There's something about Katharine's restraint that's starting to catch his attention. He's used to seeing lawyers squirm, trying to defend themselves when attacked. But Katharine isn't playing that game. Around the room, whispers grow. Some are skeptical, wondering if she's out of her depth, while others are intrigued by her ability to remain so calm under pressure. The tension in the air builds, not because of her nervousness, but because of her remarkable control. It's clear to everyone in the room that Katharine isn't here to argue with Mr. Donovan, or to try to match his arrogance. She's here to win, but she's going to do it on her own terms, not his. As the minutes pass, the mocking remarks from Donovan seem to lose their power. Katharine's silence speaks louder than any words ever could. She's not intimidated. She's not backing down, and that in itself is a statement. Finally, the moment arrives when Katharine is called to speak. It's her turn. As Mr. Donovan settles back in his seat, confident that he's already won the mental game, Katharine rises from her chair. The room falls silent as all eyes turn toward her. There's no grand gesture, no dramatic flair, just a quiet determination in her every step. She moves to the podium slowly, deliberately, taking her time. For a brief moment, she stands still, surveying the room. She locks eyes with Mr. Donovan, who watches her closely, his expression still full of smug confidence. It's as if he's daring her to fail, to make a mistake. But Katharine doesn't back down. She faces him with calm, unwavering eyes. When she finally speaks, her voice is soft but clear. It's the kind of voice that commands attention, not because it's loud, but because it's filled with certainty. Your Honor, she begins, addressing the judge directly, I may not have the same reputation as Mr. Donovan, but what I do have is the truth. And that's all that matters here today. Her words are simple, but they hold weight. The courtroom is quiet, hanging on every syllable. Even Mr. Donovan, who had expected an easy victory, straightens up in his seat, suddenly aware that Katharine is not the pushover he thought her to be. She continues, her tone measured and controlled. Mr. Donovan has spent his time mocking me, questioning my experience. But in this case, experience doesn't matter, the facts do. And I will show you the facts. Katharine begins to dismantle Mr. Donovan's arguments, piece by piece. She calmly points out the flaws in his logic, exposing the gaps in his case that no one else had noticed. The crowd is slowly becoming more engaged. The rhythm of her voice is steady, confident, and sharp. She speaks with authority, her words backed up by solid evidence. Mr. Donovan shifts in his seat. He's no longer smiling. He's trying to keep his cool, but there's a subtle tension in his posture now. Katharine continues, pulling out documents from her briefcase and laying them on the table one by one. The evidence clearly shows, she says, that my client's rights were violated. Mr. Donovan would like you to believe otherwise, but the truth is here in these papers. The facts don't lie. The room is still. It's as though the world has paused for a moment, just to absorb what Katharine has said. People are starting to realize that she's not here to make a show of it. She's here to win, and she's doing it in the most calm, controlled way possible. Mr. Donovan's arrogance starts to fade. Katharine is no longer the underdog. She's holding the cards, and everyone in the room can see it now. The power has shifted. Katharine pauses for a moment, allowing the silence to settle in the room. She knows the weight of what she's about to say next. She can feel the eyes of everyone in the courtroom on her, waiting, expecting something more, and then she delivers it. A statement that shakes the room to its core. Mr. Donovan, she begins, her voice unwavering, you've built your entire case on the idea that my client was in the wrong. That's your narrative. But what I'm about to show you changes everything. She reaches into her briefcase again, and pulls out a document that no one expected. The moment she places it on the table, Mr. Donovan's eyes narrow, his posture stiffening. He knows this isn't part of the evidence he's seen before. This is something new. Katharine slides the document toward the judge. This, Your Honor, is the missing piece of the puzzle, a piece that my opponent clearly overlooked. The room holds its breath as the judge examines the document. It's a piece of crucial evidence that completely shifts the narrative of the case. A small detail, buried in the paperwork, reveals a glaring contradiction in Mr. Donovan's client's story. It's the kind of evidence that, if proven true, would completely destroy the defense's position. Katharine watches as the judge reads the document, his eyes scanning the text quickly. His expression changes. The shift is subtle, but it's there. He's beginning to understand the weight of what she's uncovered. Mr. Donovan tries to recover, standing up quickly, his voice rising. "Objection, Your Honor, this document is irrelevant." But Katharine cuts him off.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Donovan, but it's very relevant. It's the truth. And you know it. The courtroom is stunned. The judge, still holding the document, looks up at Mr. Donovan. "Counselor, I'm going to need you to address this." For the first time, Mr. Donovan falters. His confident facade cracks, and a brief moment of panic flashes across his face. He stammers, trying to refute the evidence, but the truth is undeniable. Katharine has caught him in a mistake so big that it's impossible to ignore. Katharine stands tall, her eyes never leaving Mr. Donovan's. "I'm sure you didn't mean to leave out such an important detail," she says, her words sharp yet calm. "But that's the thing about truth. It always comes to light, no matter how much you try to hide it." The silence in the courtroom is deafening. No one moves, no one speaks. Katharine has just delivered a comeback so powerful that it has left everyone, even the judge, speechless. Mr. Donovan's smirk is gone, his confidence is shattered. Katharine's comeback wasn't just a clever argument, it was a master stroke, a move that turned the entire case around with a single piece of evidence. And in that moment, it's clear she's no longer the underdog, she's the one in control. The room is frozen in disbelief, gasps ripple through the courtroom, as people start to realize the gravity of what just happened. Mr. Donovan's face is a study in frustration and disbelief. He stands there frozen for a moment, unable to process the weight of Katharine's revelation. His eyes dart between the document, the judge, and Katharine trying to find a way out, but there's no escape. The truth has already been laid bare. The judge leans forward in his chair, carefully studying the document one more time. His expression is unreadable, but the shift in his demeanor is undeniable. Where once he had been neutral, now there's a quiet respect in his eyes. He looks up at Mr. Donovan, his voice calm but firm. "Counselor," he begins, "you need to address this issue immediately. This is crucial to the case." Mr. Donovan opens his mouth to protest, but no words come out. The courtroom has become a pressure cooker, and all eyes are on him. He tries to regain his composure, but the once confident lawyer is now visibly shaken. His earlier arrogance has evaporated, replaced with the realization that he's been caught off guard. Around the room, whispers begin to circulate. Some of the onlookers exchange wide-eyed glances, astonished by Katharine's calm yet devastating move. Others nod, slowly recognizing the brilliance of her strategy. Katharine stands unmoved, her gaze remains steady, almost calm, as though this is exactly what she expected. She doesn't look proud or triumphant, she simply looks resolute, as though she's known all along that this would happen. The atmosphere in the courtroom is thick with tension, but it's no longer the tension of a one-sided battle, now it's the tension of a courtroom, waiting for the fallout. People can feel the balance of power shifting. The ruthless lawyer who once mocked Katharine is now the one on the defensive, scrambling to salvage what's left of his case. As Mr. Donovan begins to flounder, unable to recover from Katharine's unexpected attack, the tide has clearly turned. The momentum has shifted completely in Katharine's favor. Even the judge, who had been an impartial observer, now seems to recognize that something monumental has just occurred. Katharine's quiet strength has done what words and mockery never could. It's exposed the truth, and the courtroom is left to process the shockwave of her brilliance.